Hi, my name is Jada Anderson, and I'll be discussing about the Global Virtual Connection Project that we did around early April. So, just to start off, participating in the Global Virtual Connection Project was a valuable and enlightening experience for me. I had an opportunity to connect with an international peer from China. I cannot thoroughly pronounce her name, but we basically collaborated and communicated with email exchange where we introduced ourselves and coordinated our meeting times despite of the 12-hour time difference, but we were able to successfully conduct 2 meaningful virtual meetings. So our first meeting was April 2nd at 6:30, and we were basically focused on introducing ourselves, and we basically discussed, general structure of our education systems, and which followed up with, just talking about like the different grade levels. She didn't know that what a junior meant in like college, so I explained to her what that was, how it's a third year that you've been in that school, and the same thing goes for high school. And by our second meeting, we had discussed, just a big different discussion of elementary education as far as homework. It was discussed that her daughter always comes home with homework, even though she is in elementary education. I explained to her that when I was in elementary school, we had homework, but the kids that I've worked with now, they rarely get homework, which I feel like is why we have so many kids who don't, meet the standard before they move on to the next grade level. And how I explained to her how, like with different parents, they do have a say-so if they feel like, their child is fine, even though they do have, different issues in certain areas, so they're not meeting at the level that they are at. And so I basically just touched bases on that with her. Pretty much, this experience gave me a new perspective on how cultural values shape educational priorities. It was an eye-opening to learn how heavily China emphasizes academic output, often at the expense of student well-being. Her insights made me realize the U.S. is not as structured as other countries. And I feel like China is more organized when it comes to that, because I know the education department, the Department of Education, just in the U.S. and how different states go about education, it's kind of a little messy, and it's just not, the best for students so they can be successful in life. One of the challenges, like I discussed earlier, was the 12-hour difference. When we first started off, she emailed me and I did not see it because I was asleep and I couldn't find it. But it took me a minute to find it. I ended up finding it, and she would email me back when I'm about to go to sleep. I'm emailing her when I'm going to sleep, because when it's daylight here, it's nighttime there. When it's daylight there, it's nighttime here. So it was a little different and difficult. So we got to a common ground to where it was about the evening time for me, which was early morning for her. So around 8 a.m. for her was around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. for me. So we were able to just balance off of that. But I will say that our first meeting was a little bit, stiff in a sense, because we're adjusting to differences in language and culture. But by the second meeting, it was a better conversation and just more comfortable with each other. So we were able to successfully do the project with that. I am glad for the experience, because I'm able to now know how to adapt if I was to ever have a student that came from China or an exchange student, just to, be aware of the major different cultural education, cultural things. And I'm just glad that I got insight and intake one-on-one with someone from a different country on the education systems and how they go about it. But thank you for listening.